Well, how do you do, Buckaroos? This is Joe Layton from Cowboys and Indians magazine, and I'm here today with Dallas Wayne, singer, songwriter, and host of Willie's Roadhouse. Wait a minute, shouldn't you be on the radio right now? Am I taking you away from your gig?
It's the miracle of modern technology. Yes, sir. We're good.
Okay, I don't want you getting fired for playing hooky. We're glad to have you.
Oh, no, no, it's our little secret. We won't tell nobody.
There you go. Well, after all these years on the radio, uh, what excites you the most about doing Willie's Roadhouse? I mean, that must be such a treat. You just go on the air for a few hours, play the music you love, and they actually pay you for it.
Yeah, it's the coolest job on the planet. I can't believe I fell into this 17 years ago after being out on the road for 30 plus years as a musician at that point. And I love it every day because I really cherish our listeners. And I know that sounds probably a little corny, but it is true because they are a group of people that through modern culture and what passes for what's in these days, I guess is the best way to put it, is something that has kind of maybe left them behind, or they feel like it has. And so I'm always delighted when they find us and find some comfort in the stuff we play and how we present it on the radio. It's worth its weight in gold.
Well, I've noticed indeed on your program, you do have artists that, well, to be honest about it, you don't hear a lot on mainstream, terrestrial radio, anymore.
Right.
And yet, there's still a big big audience for these folks. I can only imagine that you must get a lot of letters and emails from folks just thanking you for the fact that, now they can hear that kind of music, the music they grew up with from the artists they've always loved.
Exactly. They're so happy they found it. And it's like, I thought this type of music had gone away when my local radio station switched over and started playing whatever they're playing these days. And we get a lot of people that travel and say, I can listen to this coast to coast. I can listen to it clear up into Canada. I can listen to it down in Mexico. I can even listen to it around the world through the app. And they're grateful for it. And we're glad to be there for them every day.
It's so strange. I mean, I'm of all people, and George Strait and I are on bowling buddies. I mean, I've talked to him maybe 3 or 4 times in my life. But I remember once even he was saying he was having trouble, and I thought, oh my gosh, well, George, if you can't get on the radio, I mean, the end is nigh.
Well, we're glad to provide them a home for that kind of thing, for this platform, and they'll always have a home there. We love our classic artists. Some of them are no longer with us. Some of them are still around, and some of them are actively touring and making records, just like they always have. And it's an honor to support those efforts from them too, because it's all about putting butts in the seats, when they go out on the road. And this way, they've got a platform where they can go out and build an audience, or rediscover an audience, or have an audience rediscover them, as the case may be.
Well, Dallas, how much touring do you get to do nowadays? How many gigs a year? I mean, I would imagine now with the COVID restrictions lightening up, a lot more than you did, say, last year. But
2019, I did 110 dates according to the IRS. And
that's your story, and you're sticking with it.
And then when COVID hit, we went down to 3 dates last year in 2020. This year, I've done the Opry a couple of times. I've done the Iowa State Fair, some shows up in upstate New York. Got some stuff coming up in Chicago, and a show with the Mavericks coming up at the Paramount Theater there in Bristol, in my hometown. It's about 5 minutes away from my house. I told him, I said, you can't beat the commute. I'm there. I'll take it. And so we're hoping to pick up more with the promotion of this new record, hoping to get out on the road quite a bit this spring and summer, and anxious for folks to hear the album, and anxious to play for folks out on the road.
Well, I'm glad to hear that there's somebody besides me who refers to them still as records, you know. I mean, I still say I want to go to the record store and, you know, my
The record
wife
store
looks
these
at
days
me
could be
like,
on
you
your
know,
smartphone, you know, that's the hard part of the whole thing.
well, tell us about the new record.
The new album is called Coldwater, Tennessee. It's an album of all original stuff, which is kind of departure from my last two. I did two country covers on volumes on a project before this, but I really wanted to get back to the songwriting side of what I do. And through encouragement from Buddy Cannon, who is a friend of ours and award-winning producer, Hall of Fame songwriter, an all-around just great guy. Buddy was the one that said, you know, what do you want to do? And I said, I'd like to do another original album. I'd like to kind of go back and reestablish myself as a songwriter, because after the last couple of years, I haven't been doing that. And he said, why don't you let me produce the record? And which delighted me to no end. He's one of my producing heroes and songwriting heroes to boot. And so that's kind of how it started. And we found a great home for it on Audio Nashville, great label here in town that really believes in classic country music and knows how to market it. And so we're doing that as well. And all of this has been a perfect fit.
Mhm. Mhm. Well, now that you're getting back into the live music groove, are you surprised that there's some songs, you know, you hear from the audience, they want you to sing that, God, I didn't think anybody remembered that one.
I was playing in Arkansas right before COVID hit, and somebody yelled out, "Bouncing beer cans off the jukebox," which is a song off one of my really early albums. So I said, look back at the band, I said, "You all right?" And he said, "Yeah, we'll follow you." E chord, I sang, "I had a pocket full of payday," which is the opening line of the song, and I could not remember the rest of it. And and the guy out in the audience that yelled it started feeding me the lyrics. I said, "Come on up here to the stage," and he was down there yelling the lyrics by the monitor wedge, you know, yelling it up to me. And after the first couple of lines, I had it, you know, it clicked in my head, but I just totally just spaced, and it's like, that's embarrassing. I should know this song. I wrote it. You know, it happens.
Well, you've written so many. I mean, you know, you can't be expected to remember all of them.
If I get the first line out, usually that's the trick. I just kind of let my mind go, and it's in there. I just got to go find it. But I couldn't find that one with both hands that time. And it happens every now and then, because you think about doing laundry and stuff while you're up there singing. You know, it's like, I got to do laundry tomorrow. I got a day off in Idaho. I want to go do some laundry on my day off. And you're sitting there singing while this is going on, but that's cycling in your head as well.
Oh gosh. Oh gosh. Well, I have to ask, does Willie ever drop by the studio and try to interest you in some, how can I put this? Recreational enhancement?
What goes on the bus or in the studio or anywhere in Willie World stays in Willie World. Yes. It's funny because when we had the studios up there at the truck stop in Carl's Corner, Texas, for the radio station there, truckers would come by and they would bring us little gifts, and it might be a bottle of bourbon, some moonshine, or something a little more in the herb department.
Yes.
And it would be several weeks before I'd see Willie, and he'd say, "I won't give this to Willie. Can you give it to Willie?" And I'd have like a whole drawer full of stuff. When he'd come in the door, I just bring it out to the bus, say, "Here, this is from your beloved fans." And you know, it works for a lot of people. I'll just put it that way. And I think there might be reasons to think about the legalization of it, mainly for the tax base and for the tax reasons for it. It makes a lot of sense to me. And I'm honestly not a huge fan of it. I don't like what it does to me personally, but I know people that it's given a lot of relief to that have been ill. My father being one. My father had terminal cancer, and he started smoking marijuana to try to relieve the pain. And I never thought I'd ever see my father with a joint in his hand. It was really weird because he never smoked a cigarette in his life. So, but he was quite fond of it, and it did help him with the pain and that kind of thing. And I think those things are a consideration for it. And I will say this, and I hate to get out on a limb on it, but I have never known anybody to smoke a joint and rob a convenience store and beat his wife.
Mhm.
I've seen it on alcohol, but I have never seen it on marijuana. And like I said, I'm not a huge fan of it, but I am a supporter of the potential legalization of it across the country.
So
I
I'm
think
trying to
I think our
imagine.
schools need the help as much as anything with the tax
Oh,
dollars.
oh, yes. But I'm just trying to imagine you talking to the cops and say, "Oh yeah, well, see, I'm just holding on to this for Willie."
Yeah, I'm glad they never came into the studio in that situation
You
there.
know,
But yeah, he's had his run-ins, down there, even in Texas, in his home state, and a lot of times it'll turn into, okay, Willie, we'll let you go if you sing a verse, or if you sing to the court, sing "Always on My Mind" to everybody, and "On the Road Again," we'll let you go. So he'll sing the song, and case dismissed. Click.
let's get back to the new album. What is going to be the first single, you think?
The first single will be called "I Hit the Road and the Road Hit Back." It's a song I wrote with Robbie Folks. It's about a young guy having all these ideas of what the music business is going to bring him in his life, and he leaves his hometown and his parents' house and hits the road, and he realizes that once he got out there, that the road can hit back.
Mhm.
And that'll be coming out on the 25th of this month. Then
Okay.
the following month, we'll release "He Even Brought Her Flowers," which is a song I wrote with Bill Anderson and Buddy Cannon.
Oh yes.
And Bill, to top it all off, to put the big, Bill does the recitation in the middle of the song. There's a
Dallas,
recitation
Dallas,
part in the
I
tune,
lost
and
you that last
nobody
sentence.
does it.
Dallas, I lost you those last couple of sentences. We froze here.
It's a song I wrote with Buddy Cannon and Bill Anderson. It's called "He Even Brought Her Flowers,"
Right.
and we got Bill to do the recitation. There's a recitation in it. It's a pretty traditional country song, and there's a recitation part in it. And we got the best person that's ever done recitations in the history of country music to do it. And it made the song for me just to hear Bill Anderson weave his magic.
Well, one last question now for the radio show. Has there ever been anybody you wanted to have on the show you haven't gotten yet that you've still been working on?
Well, that's a tough question. There have been a few that unfortunately have passed on before I had a chance to sit down and have them. I was laughing. We were talking about the Oak Ridge Boys earlier here in the room. Over the years, one by one, I would interview them as they had a book out or a solo project or something special going on with the Oaks or something like that. And I finally, this last year, I'd done everybody repeatedly in that group except for William Lee Golden. And I finally got to sit down with William Lee this last year, and he was just an absolute delight. Because the shows I'd worked with him in the past, he doesn't say much. He's very pleasant and everything, but Joe Bonsall or Dwayne or Richard will do a lot of talking, and Bill Golden just sits over there doing what he does best, which is to be Bill Golden. He's cool as canned soup, but to have him as an interview was a wonderful, pleasant surprise. He's such an articulate guy. He's such a thoughtful guy. He's really got a lot on the ball. I knew he was talented, and I knew that he was one of the driving forces behind the Oaks moving into more secular music back when they did it. And I was always anxious to talk to him, and I finally got to sit down and do an interview with him a while back. I love doing authors. I love things slightly outside of country music on the show every now and then. My favorite guest of all time, and it was a regular one, would be, other than Willie, obviously, because he would come on the show quite often and still does every now and then, but was Ray Price.
Yes.
Ray Price's PR firm would say, "You got 30 minutes with Ray." And 2.5 hours later, he'd still be there. And they come peek in the door, and he'd just wave them off like that. You know, like, no, I'm having a good time here. Leave me alone. And he was great because he was such a fountain of knowledge in country music, and he'd seen so much. My goodness, he was Hank Williams' roommate.
Yes.
You know, after Hank and Audrey split up, him and Ray Price got a house here in Nashville, and it only lasted about 6 months. But wouldn't you love to have been a fly on the wall with those two?
Man.
Would have been fantastic. And if Ray would get in a mood, he would tell you these stories, and it was always just a wonderful time because he was such a warm guy anyway to begin with. So senatorian, you know, and very dignified, and but a wicked sense of humor underneath that was a heck of a lot of fun.
That's great. That's great. Well, Dallas, get in one more plug for the album.
Anytime you want to pick one up, it's available April 22nd. First single comes out on the 25th of February. I called I Hit the Road and the Road Hit Back. He Even Brought Her Flowers will be released to radio on the 25th of March. The new album hits the streets on the 22nd of April. You can pick it up wherever fine music is sold, and because they got the fine music over in the one section, and then they got all the other stuff like where I'm at over at not so fine music. It's over there, but you can find it's right next to it, so it's okay.
There you go. And I'm sure we'll be hearing both of these singles a lot on Lily's Roadhouse, right?
I know a guy.
There you go.
I know a guy that works there. I think we can pull that off.
You won't even have to resort to payola or pot. You know, just put it on there. It's been a pleasure, sir. Thank you very much.
It has been a delight. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.